Hey gang, Scott here. So ON1 Photo RAW 2022 out on the street today, and one of the marquee features is Sky Swap AI. So replacing skies, dealing with water reflections, auto masking, all those things that we're coming to expect from a sky replacement technology. In this video, I'll run through all the controls, show you how it works, and show you a couple of areas where I think there's some improvement I hope to see in iterations on Sky Swap AI. So we'll go through it from top to bottom in this video. And real quick, if you're thinking about adding Photo RAW to your toolkit, please check the show notes. There's an offer code there that will save you money, and it will give me a little bit of support so I can continue doing tutorial videos like this. So let's get into Sky Swap AI. So we will use this photo as the run through of all the different controls in Sky Swap AI. I've done some basics on it. Hit the backslash key. You can see I've just done some quick auto adjustments, a little bit of dynamic contrast so the houses and so forth are a little crisper. To access Sky AI, here, Sky Swap AI, we'll just go to this Sky tab. Photo RAW reads the scene, figures out what's going on, says, okay, I understand, I found a sky, and notice that nothing has changed, but there is a mask that's now been applied to this Sky Swap AI tool, and it's found the sky, right? If I open up this area and I click view, we can see that there is indeed a sky that's been masked there. And it's a soft mask. You can see that it's not crisp and rigid as it gets in and close to tree lines. It's just a little tapered. And we have lots of controls that let us change things. But the first thing we need to do, we need to choose a sky. Now for this scene, I'm going to choose something that's very obvious. I'm going to choose a very bright, vibrant, kind of sunset kind of photo kind of sky here, just so we can easily see what's going on. But like all tools, we have all of our different categories. We can access them here. So I'll switch over to something like sunset. And let's see about, number 5 looks pretty good. 5's good, so we'll click on 5. Now that's already dropped it in, and you're already going, hey, well, wait a minute, there's no reflection, this looks terrible. Don't worry, we're gonna get there. I wanna go through all the controls, then we'll come back and refine this photo and finish it. And then I do wanna show you a couple of examples where there's room for improvement here. Let's get into the controls. Now once you've selected a sky, there's 4 different groups of controls. We have the position, appearance, and then foreground and reflection. These are different tweaks that we can do to the photo. But we start off with position really. What do we have? We have shift horizon, right? So we can move it up or down, and you can see where that cut line is, right? So you can say, all right, I want that line to be below the trees for sure, something like that. You have an opacity strength. So this is letting you blend a sky into your existing sky. If you don't want a full replacement, you want something that's a little softer. Like even in this photo, because the blue in that sky and the blue on my replacement sky, like original sky, replacement sky, those are kind of complementary. So I could even leave this as like a lowest or lower opacity than 100%. I'll leave it at 100 so we can see really what's going on, everything. I'm going to skip fade edge and shift edge just for a moment, and then scale, because that's an obvious one, right? We can scale and shrink the sky, and maybe I'll do something like that to get I kind of like this blue curl right over the center house there. Now back to the fade edge and shift edge. To see what's going on with these, it's going to be best if I make the mask viewable. So I'm pressing the O key on the keyboard. So I can have this black and white view mask. And the view of the mask, you go into your mask view mode. You can set it to grayscale. It's a very easy way to see this. Watch as I do fade edge. I get tighter. I bleed down past the line, or I get softer. So this is letting you reset that to where it is nominally. So lets you control how quickly or how slowly the replacement sky fades into the non-sky area of your photo. So you have control over the mask. It's similar to the feather control for just general masking, but it's built right into the tool here. And I would not normally be working with this in this black and white view. We'll go back in a minute, but this just lets you see what's going on. Shift edge is another control that we have to really refine where is the edge. Where do we consider the edge? If I push this all the way down, you can see that the edge bleeds farther into what we would consider foreground, like more of that house is showing up. That's not really sky. The trees are getting more of that lighter gray, whitish mask. That's not really sky. So this controls where the edge, where the sky ends and the rest of your photo begins, and fade edge controls how quickly or slowly do I transition. Now, how would I work with these normally? I'll press the O key again to turn off the overlay, the mask overlay. Is watching the photo, right? And you can see if I get very aggressive with fade edge, this just looks bad. I mean, to the point where I'm pushing it so far, I'm seeing the horizon line on my sky show up. We would not do that. And we work visually. We can shift the edge around, and I'm kind of paying attention to those problem areas that we saw with the scene in black and white mode. The tip of this tree and that particular chimney, right? Where if I push fade edge, the chimney almost disappears. We don't want that. We have to temper that. We have to taper that out. And actually, the defaults tend to be quite good. They've been very, very close to where I want to have things finalized. But that's what these two sliders do. Now let's move on to appearance. What do the appearance sliders do? Now these are a little more straightforward. We can recognize these, right? Warmth, brightness, haze. Sure enough, we can make the sky warmer or cooler. Right? You see that change there. Warmth. Watch the blue in the sky. Very cool. And then the orange almost becomes like an orange purple. We can change the brightness of the sky, make it darker, make it brighter, and it's only affecting the sky area. We can decrease haze or increase haze. Blur amount and blur angle. These let you create a simulated long exposure with like clouds that are moving through a direction, directionally. So let me push the blur amount up very far. And then the angle, we can have the angle. You can see I have this like rotating around. It's almost gonna be like the Aurora Borealis here. But here I'm kind of pushing things in like a northwest to southeast direction. Now they're rotating around the other way. And so you have some ability to create some long exposure looks. For this scene, I don't want the blur. I like the natural look of that sky already. It's already got a little bit of sweeping going on. But we have those controls there. So in the appearance area, you are affecting the appearance of the replacement sky and able to introduce a little bit of a directional blur if you want to give a long exposure feel to it. The next section down is lighting, and this is an optional item. You can turn it on or turn it off. So I'll turn it on, and we'll see that there is this darkening that happens on our foreground. So the sky has been recognized by the AI, and the foreground, which is our houses in this case, this house is along the middle, those are what's being affected. You have a variety of things here. You have either screen to lighten or darken. You're changing the tonality with this color. So I could choose, for example, maybe this brighter orange here. And notice now I'm using this color with either one of these blending options, and multiply tends to work quite well. To how strong or how weak do I want to make that lighting appear. And this is an area that is important for us as photographers. You have a certain color, a prominent tonality in the sky that is going to be reflecting down on your scene. So you have this capability to adjust the strength of this lighting. You can turn it off and on. If you don't like it, you don't have to keep it. I think it makes sense for this scene. If I have this orange sky, I'm going to be throwing a little bit of orange light down there. We have distance, we have amount, where we can control, obviously, the strength of how much or how little. Now, let me push amount up very far so you can see what distance does, right? Distance will either push it farther down to the foreground or tighter. Notice that down at like where these ducks are going across the water surface there. As I push distance farther, you can see that color creeping in farther and farther down into the water. And for this one, I'd probably settle somewhere around here, just having it cover some of the houses in the reflection here, but not going all the way down into the bottom part, because the last set of controls are for the reflection. So in this type of scene where I do have water surface in the front, I want to be able to have that sky reflected on that water surface. And so I don't need to go throw a bunch of extra color there. It'll show up with the reflection. So let me get this amount of orange back into a realm of tolerability and turn on reflection. So I'll turn on reflection and we can see that, great, the reflection's been added. There's been some automatic detection done by ON1. We have variety of blending options. So this is very nice. You can see where the sky is being applied. You can choose which overlay makes sense, or sorry, which blending mode makes sense. Overlay tends to be very good. We have two controls: how much reflection, right? And I'm going to push this all the way so we can see what happens when we shift vertical, right? We can change things. Now in this scene, right, what do I have going on up top? I've got this this kind of curl here. I want that to be out here somewhere. So, I'll shift vertical to a point where I have things like that, and then I can dial back the amount of that reflection so that it just feels nice. And, maybe I'll push that up just a little bit. I kind of like that this is circling over the chimney, this is kind of circling through the ducts there. And, I have the control. I have the artistic control to decide, where do I really want that that position to be, and right around there feels good. I want to go back and visit now the scale slider and show you something very important. So if I've done this reflection already, I set scale. Well, now I will scale both the reflection and the sky at the same time, which makes sense, right? If you figured out where you want that alignment of your reflection for your sky, and then you decide, I think I might want to adjust the scale a little more, it will work as you think it should. So that's all pretty darn great. So those are all the controls that we have over SkySwap AI. We can control position and scale, reflections, foreground lighting, even adding in motion blur if you so desire. All of that is just right there in the tool. Now, what's very nice about SkySwap AI is the mask that it creates is just that, a mask. We've talked about a couple little tweaks that look like they need to be done on this photo, and well, I can do that because it's a mask. I have the ability to tweak that mask, and we'll do that here. You can see on the tree here, my fade edge, it's gotten a little aggressive there. I could back that off some. I've got that same problem in the chimney over here. I can fine tune a little bit with the sliders, but we saw before as we were working with these, I can't quite get all the way there. Well, I have masking. I've got my masking brush. I can shrink that down. I can turn on my perfect brush right there, right? Perfect brush, I get edge detection. And then, let's see, I will set the opacity maybe to about halfway so that I can build up the look if I need to. Now with the perfect brush selected, I'm just going to do like a kind of a click and a little bit of a wiggle, and then click and a little bit of a wiggle, and just kind of making sure I keep the center point of my brush on those trees, and then I can just bring that tree back in. And this is where, for a sky replacement in a scene like this tree does not have particularly crisp leaves. It's a slightly longer exposure to begin with. You saw those ducks moving across the water, so they're kind of blurred to begin with. So it's all right if my mask, if I press O, is a little soft. That's okay. I also need to do that for the chimney, and this would need to be stronger actually. For this, 100%. We do not want the chimney to have any sky on it. That wouldn't make any sense, right? I'm going to press my O key so I can see that mask nice and clean, and I'm just doing a handful of single clicks, leveraging the perfect brush to do this work for me. And then now I can tighten up, turn off the perfect brush, Command or Control R, and just make sure I get that bit right there. The rest, the softness I'm all right with. Zoom back out, and that is looking great. All right, so that's an end-to-end example of a sky replacement using SkySwap AI. Overall, quite straightforward. Using the sliders, getting things 95% of the way there. A couple of tweaks as you pay attention to detail. Right? That's always important as a photographer. Pay attention to those details and make sure they are looking good and matching your vision. Now that being said, SkySwap AI, powerful tech. There are some areas I think it needs some improvement on, and there's two in particular. One we've kind of seen a little bit of. It's like tree lines and masking and so forth. And I want to show you an extreme example here. This photo here, this tree, where there are some very crisp, clean lines. Right, this is a silhouetted scene. You know, this has a lot of detail in it. I go into SkySwap AI. Let's go pick something that would make sense for this photo here. You know, clouds, like a blue cloudy day. Right now, it kind of looks okay. I'm going to press the O key and look at the mask. And it kind of missed, right? There's a lot of space in between here. Visually, not bad, but if this were a different kind of background where you had, I don't know, like these kind of clouds, it's kind of not quite there. If you were doing something more extreme, like a dramatic scene, it clearly misses, right? Now this blend doesn't make sense. I'm showing this to you because you can see where, the mask isn't getting me the look that I would want. So what options do we have? Let's keep this dramatic one on here. Like I said, this makes no sense whatsoever for a blend. But we have our fade edge, so we can try that. It's not really doing. We have our shift edge, so we can try to crunch that in farther. I get closer, but I don't get all the way. And if I crush the shift edge, notice I'm getting this artificial horizon line there. So we're left at that point with really trying to do the masking work with our perfect brush, you know, kind of getting all the way in here, having that opacity cranked up, turning on our perfect brush. Let me not show that again. And, you know, trying to do that command or control click in the blue and try to paint through to remove things. Oh, sorry, I need to add that in. Let me shift X. That was what I'm looking for. And add in. I want to add replacement sky in there. And you start getting into these games. And that's not quite good. Is my color threshold. Maybe I need to be a little more generous on that. You know, transition. If I hover over these things, you can see what these controls do, how sensitive things are for different color matches. All right, I do that. Does that give me something else? Maybe. It starts to fall apart pretty quickly. This goes back to more of an old school, very detailed mask. It might make more sense to go to layers and using something like a luminosity mask, because this is a dark silhouetted thing, which might be more isolatable using tones. So this is one area, like tree lines, anything where you have very fine detail that meets the sky, it's going to need some additional work. And incidentally, I've thrown this same photo at other sky replacement technology. They have the same challenges. So this is not a knock saying ON1's is worse than others. It's a fundamental problem with AIs in this area. It just seems to be, it's notable in certain scenes with SkySwap AI. It's going to need some more work. Now, there's one other I want to show you here too. And this photo here, the area that will need improvement is in the reflection space. So let's pick a clouds here. Clouds 4 should work pretty well for this scene. Okay, that looks good. The sky itself looks fine. Maybe we'll shift the horizon, not too much, up a little bit. Fade the edge there. Okay, so we have that. We've got some nice puffy clouds. Okay. Reflection. I turn the reflection on, and it's maintaining some of that detail here, right? That looks good. Where there's some rippling in the water, that's being honored. It's being maintained. I can push that a little farther, softer. What I want to do is push this all the way to the right, and for illustrative purposes, if I change this to screen, The reflection covers most things, right? It got this area, it got here. When it gets into shadowy areas, and we saw this on the other photo as well, here the reflection doesn't get picked up. Now, that may be important to my photo, and I do not have a control to extend the area that's considered a reflection, right? There's just no options there. That's not part of the mask, so there isn't a control to extend the reflection into those deeper shadowy areas. And we can try things, but even as I go through all of these different blending modes, that fundamental, you're not going to be able to push that reflection into a moderately shadowed reflective area. It's just how it is. I'll hazard a guess that there's a level of color that gets looked at as part of the AI here, and when it gets into this sandy color, that would not be recognized as water. But that is a limitation to be aware of with the reflections, and if that part of a photo is important for a sky replacement for you, well, you still have layers. You can go into the layering and do manual masking that way. It's something to be aware of. So that's one other area that I'm looking forward to seeing improvements in SkySwap AI from ON1. And that'll wrap it up for the video. So that is SkySwap AI top to bottom. Overall, strong tool, very useful, much easier than doing it in layers or with textures and so forth. You can control reflections a whole lot better. There are some areas for improvement, and I'm confident that we'll see some improvements from ON1 as they iterate on this new feature in Photo RAW 2022. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you got any questions, go ahead and drop them below. You got other experiences with SkySwap AI, let everyone know. Let's share the knowledge here. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.